I met Sophia at a local coffee shop, her Ukrainian accent catching my attention before her striking blue eyes did. Our relationship was perfect, a whirlwind romance that led to an engagement within a year. Everything was wonderful until her mother Irina arrived from Ukraine to help plan our wedding. I started noticing how they would suddenly switch to Ukrainian whenever I entered the room, their expressions changing conversation, halting. Something felt off, but I kept telling myself I was being paranoid. Before I continue this story, drop a like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments where you are watching from. Trust me, you will want to hear what happened next. I am Nelson, a 32-year-old software engineer from Chicago. Before meeting Sophia, I was what most people would call a workaholic. My dating history consisted of short relationships that fizzled out because I prioritized my career over everything else. My apartment was the stereotypical bachelor pad with minimal decoration and furniture that served only practical purposes. I spent most weekends either catching up on work or gaming with online friends. Dating apps sat unused on my phone as meeting someone special seemed like a distant possibility. All that changed when I walked into that coffee shop on a rainy Tuesday morning. I was running late for a meeting and needed caffeine desperately. Sophia was behind the counter, her blonde hair tied back in a neat bun, her smile genuine despite the morning rush. When she spoke, her slight accent immediately caught my attention. We made small talk while she prepared my order, and I found myself lingering despite my upcoming meeting. I returned the next day and the day after that. I learned she was working part-time while finishing her master's degree in business. She had moved to America 3 years prior on a student visa and was hoping to secure permanent residency. Our conversations grew longer each visit, until I finally gathered the courage to ask her out properly. Our relationship progressed faster than any I had experienced before. Sophia was intelligent, ambitious, and affectionate. She shared my love for strategy board games, but also pulled me out of my comfort zone with dancing and outdoor activities. For the first time, I found myself prioritizing someone else over work. Within 6 months, we were talking about a future together. By our 1-year anniversary, I proposed with a ring that cost 3 months of my salary. She said yes through tears of joy, and we began planning a wedding that would take place 6 months later. The harmony between us seemed perfect. We rarely argued, and when we did, we resolved issues quickly through compromise. I helped Sophia navigate American customs and bureaucracy, while she introduced me to Ukrainian cuisine and taught me a few phrases in her native language. She spoke perfect English with only a slight accent, having studied it since childhood. The only time she used Ukrainian was during weekly video calls with her family back home. Everything changed when Sophia suggested her mother come stay with us to help plan the wedding. Irina would arrive 3 months before the ceremony and stay through the honeymoon to watch our apartment. I agreed without hesitation, excited to meet the woman who raised the person I loved most. Irina arrived on a cold Sunday morning. She was a shorter, older version of Sophia with the same high cheekbones and bright blue eyes. Her English was limited, with Sophia translating most conversations. Initially, everything seemed fine. Irina cooked elaborate Ukrainian meals and brought traditional wedding ideas that seemed charming. She hugged me when we met and presented me with a hand-embroidered shirt as a gift. The first signs of trouble emerged subtly. I noticed Sophia becoming more reserved, checking her phone more frequently, and spending hours in closed-door conversations with her mother. When I would enter a room, their rapid Ukrainian dialogue would abruptly cease, replaced with casual English comments about dinner or wedding details. A strange tension began filling our once peaceful apartment. Family dinners became increasingly uncomfortable. Through Sophia, Irina would ask pointed questions about my finances, family inheritance, and career trajectory. When I asked about Ukrainian wedding traditions, their answers seemed vague and inconsistent. Decisions about our wedding began changing without my input. The guest list grew, the venue shifted to a more expensive option, and the simple ceremony we had planned was evolving into something elaborate and costly. As weeks passed, my feelings of exclusion intensified. I would come home from work to find them hunched over bridal magazines, switching from Ukrainian to English mid-sentence. Sophia began taking private calls on the balcony, speaking in hushed Ukrainian tones. When I expressed concerns, she assured me everything was fine, that I was being too sensitive, that this was simply how Ukrainian women planned weddings. I wanted to believe her, but the knot in my stomach grew tighter with each passing day. The breaking point came during an argument about the wedding venue. I had returned home to find Sophia and Irina looking at a different location than the one we had already booked. The new place was nearly double our budget. We cannot get married at that small venue. Nelson Sophia insisted, her accent becoming more pronounced, as it always did when she was upset. In Ukraine, weddings are big celebration, not tiny gathering like you Americans do. But we already put down a deposit, I countered. We agreed on the budget months ago. Irina said something in Ukrainian that made Sophia nod vigorously. What did she just say? I asked. She says that a man who truly loves his bride would not worry about money for most important day of her life. Sophia translated, her eyes challenging me. That is not fair. This is not about love. This is about the financial plan we created together. The argument escalated until Sophia accused me of being culturally insensitive, of not respecting her heritage. I went to bed that night with my mind racing. The next morning, I noticed Sophia scrolling through my bank statements on my laptop. When I asked what she was doing, she quickly closed the browser, claiming she was checking our joint account for wedding expenses. We did not have a joint account yet. I began noticing other discrepancies. Sophia, who had always been frugal during our dating period, was suddenly pushing for expensive additions to the wedding. She suggested I update my will to include her even before the marriage. Irina asked increasingly specific questions about my retirement accounts and property ownership through her daughter. The moral dilemma weighed heavily on me. Was I being paranoid and culturally insensitive, as Sophia claimed? Or were my instincts trying to protect me? I loved Sophia and wanted to trust her, but something felt deeply wrong. The language barrier allowed them a private world I could not access, and their behavior changed dramatically when they thought I could not understand them. After another evening of suspicious behavior where they abruptly stopped talking when I entered the living room, I made a decision I never thought I would make. During my lunch break the next day, I purchased a small recording device. I felt sick with guilt, but proceeded anyway, telling myself that if I was wrong, I would never listen to the recording and would seek therapy for my trust issues. That evening, Sophia mentioned they would be discussing cake options for the wedding in the living room. After dinner, I excused myself to take a shower, discreetly placing the device beneath the coffee table before leaving. The next morning, Sophia and Irina left early to meet with florists and go shopping. I almost removed the device without listening, ashamed of my actions. But the memory of Sophia checking my bank statements pushed me to retrieve it. The recording contained over an hour of conversation, primarily in Ukrainian. I caught occasional English phrases, particularly when they mentioned dollar amounts or my name. With my limited knowledge of the language, I could not determine the context, but the tone seemed calculating rather than celebratory. I needed a translator, but could not use an online service for something so sensitive. After careful consideration, I contacted Yuri, a Ukrainian coworker I had known for several years. He had actually introduced himself to me after hearing about my engagement to a Ukrainian woman. I asked if we could meet privately, emphasizing the need for discretion. We met at a cafe across town where there was little chance of running into Sophia or her mother. Yuri sensed my unease and promised confidentiality before I even explained the situation. With profound embarrassment, I explained my concerns and asked if he would translate a portion of the recording. His initial reluctance faded when I mentioned certain behaviors that he, as a Ukrainian, found concerning. As Yuri listened to the recording through headphones, his expression transformed from concentration to shock to pity. He removed the headphones several times, asking if I was certain I wanted to know the content. Each time I nodded, my stomach sinking further. The translation was devastating. Irina was not simply helping plan a wedding. She was coaching Sophia on how to secure my assets before marriage, suggesting specific legal questions to ask and documents to look for. They discussed timing a divorce for optimal financial benefit under American law. Most painfully, they referenced someone named Artem back in Ukraine with whom Sophia apparently maintained a relationship. The plan, as Irina laid it out, was for Sophia to obtain American citizenship through marriage to me, divorce, with a substantial settlement, and then bring Artem to America. Throughout the recording, Sophia actively participated in the planning, occasionally expressing mild concern about getting caught but never objecting to the fundamental deception. Her laughter when Irina made jokes about my trusting nature cut through me like physical pain. As Yuri translated, I felt my world collapsing. The future I had imagined, the person I thought I knew and loved, the family I hoped to build, all revealed as elaborate fiction. I sat in that cafe, a grown man fighting back tears in public as the truth of my relationship was laid bare. After the initial shock subsided, I faced the question of how to proceed. My first instinct was to confront Sophia immediately, but Yuri advised caution. You need more evidence, he suggested. They will deny everything, claim you misunderstood, or that the translation is wrong. I spent the next week in a strange limbo, pretending everything was normal, while secretly recording more conversations. Each new translation confirmed the original discovery and added devastating details. They had already consulted with a divorce attorney. They had researched my company's stock options. They even discussed how many months into the marriage Sophia should wait before initiating divorce proceedings. During this time, I met discreetly with a lawyer to understand my legal options. She confirmed that while my recordings might not be admissible in court depending on state laws, they had given me valuable information to protect myself. She helped me draft a prenuptial agreement and advised me on securing my financial accounts. The breaking point came when I overheard Sophia on the phone, speaking English with someone she called my love when she thought I was still at work. She was describing our apartment to this person, explaining which furniture she would keep after everything is finalized. When she said, "Just a few more months, Artem, and we will never be apart again," I knew I had all the confirmation I needed. I decided to confront them during dinner that evening. I had transferred important documents to a safe deposit box and had already spoken with my landlord about breaking the lease. My lawyer was on standby for any legal issues that might arise. As we ate the Ukrainian borscht Irina had prepared, I calmly said, "I need to discuss something important with both of you." They exchanged a quick glance before Sophia smiled. "Of course, honey. What is it I know about the plan?" I stated flatly, "I know about the scheme to marry me for citizenship, divorce me for money, and bring Artem to America." Their reactions confirmed everything. Irina froze mid-bite, while Sophia's face drained of color, before quickly composing herself. "What are you talking about?" Sophia laughed nervously. "Who is Artem?" "Is this some joke? I recorded your conversations," I admitted. I had them translated. Irina suddenly found her English slamming her fist on the table. "You record us. This is illegal. We sue you." Sophia shifted tactics instantly, her eyes filling with tears. "Nelson," my mother pressured me. "I love you, not Artem." She made me talk to him. "Please believe me." I pulled out my phone and played a clip of Sophia laughing while discussing how she would spend my money after the divorce. Her performance faltered as she heard her own voice. "You know nothing about our culture." Irina spat, standing up abruptly. "Ukrainian women must be smart to survive. American men are stupid with money." Sophia lunged for my phone, attempting to grab it from my hand. In the struggle, she knocked over the soup tureen, sending borscht spilling across the dining table. The commotion grew louder as Irina joined in, shouting in Ukrainian and English. The noise prompted my neighbors to knock on the door, concerned about the disturbance. When I opened the door to assure them everything was under control, Sophia saw an opportunity to play victim, crying dramatically about how I was accusing her of terrible things. The neighbors, confused by the scene of a sobbing woman and the chaos of the apartment, asked if they should call someone. "That will not be necessary," I said calmly. "My fiancée and her mother will be leaving shortly." Back inside, Sophia and Irina had shifted to threats. They would tell everyone I was abusive. They would report me for illegal recording. They would ruin my reputation. I remained composed, explaining that I had consulted with a lawyer who had advised me of my rights. I revealed that I had been preparing a prenuptial agreement based on their own timeline discussions. I showed them copies of text messages between Sophia and Artem that Yuri had helped me recover from our shared computer. The final confrontation came when Sophia, realizing her manipulation had failed, finally dropped the pretense. "You Americans think you are so smart, but you are so easy to fool with sex and promises," she said coldly. "I never loved you. You were boring from the beginning, but your money made it worthwhile." Her words hurt despite everything I already knew, but they also provided a strange relief. There was no more uncertainty. No more benefit of the doubt to extend. The woman I loved had never existed. "You have until tomorrow to pack your things," I told them. "Anything you did not bring with you stays here." They left the next morning, taking only their original luggage. Sophia returned her engagement ring without being asked a final acknowledgement that the charade was over. After they left, I stood alone in an apartment filled with wedding preparations. Invitation samples sat on the counter. Sophia's wedding magazine with folded corners remained on the coffee table. The silence was deafening. The first few days were the hardest. I called my parents and closest friends, finally revealing what had happened. Their shock quickly turned to support. My best friend Jason drove 6 hours to stay with me for a week, helping me cancel wedding arrangements and remove reminders of Sophia from the apartment. I started therapy to process the betrayal trauma. My therapist helped me understand that while caution in future relationships was natural, allowing this experience to prevent me from trusting again would give Sophia power over my future she did not deserve. The legal aftermath was surprisingly straightforward. Since we were not yet married, the main tasks involved removing Sophia from insurance policies, changing passwords, and notifying vendors about the canceled wedding. Some deposits were non-refundable, but the financial loss was nothing compared to what could have happened had the marriage proceeded. Through self-reflection, I began identifying red flags I had missed. Sophia had isolated me from friends early in our relationship. She had shown excessive interest in my career promotions and financial decisions. She had rushed the engagement timeline. While cultural differences were real, I had allowed them to become an excuse for ignoring concerning behavior. Instead of withdrawing from life, I focused on rebuilding. I reconnected with friends I had neglected during my relationship with Sophia. I threw myself into a work project I was passionate about, earning recognition from company leadership. I renovated my apartment, creating a space that felt entirely mine. My friendship with Yuri unexpectedly deepened. Feeling terrible about what his countrywoman had done, he invited me to authentic Ukrainian cultural events, where I learned that Irina's behavior reflected her own character, not Ukrainian values as a whole. I met wonderful Ukrainian Americans who were horrified by my experience and shared stories of genuine Ukrainian traditions around marriage. 6 months after the breakup, I cautiously started dating again. I established clear boundaries and moved at a slower pace. I was transparent about my experience, without letting it dominate new relationships. 8 months after Sophia left, I encountered her at a shopping mall. She looked less polished. Then during our relationship, her designer clothes replaced with simpler attire. She approached me with a tentative smile, asking if we could talk. Over coffee, she attempted a half-hearted reconciliation, hinting at financial difficulties and claiming she had realized her mistake. I listened politely, wished her well, and walked away feeling nothing but gratitude for my narrow escape. The healing journey continued in waves. Some days I felt angry about the wasted time and emotional investment. Other days I recognized that the experience had forced me to confront my tendency to overlook red flags and rush into commitment. I worked on forgiving myself, understanding that forgiveness did not mean excusing their behavior, but refusing to let it control my future. A year after the broken engagement, I met Jordan at a friend's dinner party. Our relationship developed organically, with mutual respect and transparency. She demonstrated trustworthiness through consistent actions rather than empty words. When doubts occasionally surfaced, I addressed them directly instead of suppressing them. The most important lesson from my experience was learning to trust my instincts. The uncomfortable feeling I had dismissed as paranoia had been my subconscious, recognizing inconsistencies my conscious mind wanted to ignore. I learned that genuine love does not require constant sacrifice or suspension of critical thinking. Real partnership feels secure rather than anxiety-inducing. Looking back, I realized that escaping that relationship before marriage was one of the most fortunate turns in my life. The pain of betrayal, while intense, was temporary. The financial and emotional devastation of discovering the truth years into a marriage would have been far worse. If you have ever ignored red flags in a relationship because you wanted so badly to believe in someone, you are not alone. Trust your gut when something feels wrong. Cultural differences are real, but they should never be used to justify secrecy or manipulation. Have you ever had that gut feeling that something was wrong in a relationship? Share your experience in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might benefit from hearing it. Thank you for listening to my journey from betrayal to freedom. Remember, sometimes losing what you thought you wanted opens the door to finding what you truly deserve.